That's right. Simone, you're switching it up. These are some new ones.
I had to come with some new stuff.
There you go.
It's a lovely Friday.
As we get into the Kings Roundtable with Brenden, Nunes, and Frankie Cartoscelli on a beautiful Friday. Guys, finally not going to rain on a Saturday. Outstanding stuff.
It's going to be a little warm.
Mm-hmm. I'm ready. I'm excited.
A little upset, too. My neighbor cut down this just huge, I don't know if it was a pine tree or what kind of tree it was, but a huge tree that provides our backyard and our house with so much shade this morning, just completely just chainsawing it down. It's gone. Completely, just my backyard is just getting cooked every day now going forward.
Get the sunscreen, old Frankie Cartoscelli.
No, that's when you call him Franklin. One of those comments. Yeah, that's an old man comment right there.
Hey, I'm right there with you.
It's a wonderful tree.
Yeah, it is a wonderful tree.
It was my favorite tree.
It kept the house cool.
Yeah.
You have to run the AC. That costs money.
It does. Sure. And when you talk about, Frankie and I, and we're bringing up the value of Natomas, it's just a lot of things going on at one time. And we hope that the value of the Kings draft pick goes up this Sunday. And Chris was giving some of the numbers, guys, and I think Chris has some more notes on just the history of some of the good fortune that teams have had, and some teams have been luckier than others, and hopefully the Kings enter that group this weekend. Chris?
Yeah, so some of the biggest leaps in lottery history. I don't know I think the lottery started, if I'm not mistaken, in the
85?
80s. Yeah, I was going to say, I know there's the big
85.
frozen envelope fiasco with the New York Knicks getting Patrick Ewing and all that. But so really the biggest leap started in 1993. Pretty famously, the Orlando Magic jumped all the way up to number 1 and selected Chris Webber. As we know, Chris Webber never played for the Orlando Magic. He was traded for Anthony Penny Hardaway. And the rest is kind of history. Orlando had a 1.53% chance of moving up to number 1. And again, the Kings have a 0.8% chance of moving up to number 1. In 2008, the Chicago Bulls had a 1.7% chance to move up to number 1 and did so and selected Derrick Rose. In 2011, the Cleveland Cavaliers had a 2.8% shot at moving up to number 1. They selected Kyrie Irving at number 1. And then again in 2014, the Cavs had a 1.7% chance of moving all the way up to number 1. Did so and took Andrew Wiggins with the number 1 pick. And Alan, we were just talking about that. Traded Andrew Wiggins for Kevin Love and eventually built LeBron's little super team, I guess, is what we'll call it.
Some crazy luck by Cleveland there.
Yeah, it was really annoying. And the not included in there is when they got Anthony Bennett, I believe in 2013.
Right, but they had a better chance of, and then they wasted that.
And so, yeah, again, the Kings have 0.8% chance at moving up to 1. The lowest of all time is Orlando in 93 at 1.53.
I feel like the Anthony Bennett pick doesn't get talked about enough. I mean,
yeah,
it was just a bad draft.
Where is he?
Do you remember a couple years ago when he was cooking in the G League and people thought, could he?
No. I just don't remember.
I don't have many Anthony Bennett memories.
Where in the world?
He's 31 years old.
Yeah. I don't know what they saw there at all.
He's got a training camp invite to the Houston Rockets this fall.
Wait,
3
what?
days ago. 3 days ago.
I told you.
Unless Yahoo Lifestyle Canada is wrong.
He was playing in Taiwan.
Which, that's a trusted source, guys.
He was playing in Taiwan, and do you want to know who, if this is right, do you want to know who his teammate was?
Boogie?
We're talking about draft covers.
Where's that?
Who was a top 2 pick from years ago that was a total bust?
Marvin Bagley.
Okay, I can't. I'm leaving the show.
Set yourself up for that one.
I'm leaving this show. Hashim Thabit was playing with Anthony Bennett in Taiwan last year.
It's just a land of misfit draft picks out there. It probably would be
Coached
fun
by
to just
Michael over the candy.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking, and I think the danger here is we slip right into a bust conversation when you start talking about Anthony Bennett, because Markelle Fultz is at least still on a roster. But Sixers had an opportunity. That was the height of the process. And we just added this kid. Now we have the guard to go on with Ben Simmons, who is the kind of the do-it-all piece. So maybe it just doesn't get talked about because there's just a lot of misses in general.
I think that the Kings were also in that conversation for obviously Marvin Bagley. But I think even until like this year, talking about lottery picks or top picks, I think Davion Mitchell was a player that I think I talked about with you guys on the show. We talked about it maybe privately, that he was on the verge of being in that, man, I'm really worried about that pick. Are we really, like, I don't want to say bust territory, but just disappointment. And I feel like the Kings now are in a point where they have two players that I think that Davion Mitchell, he has reestablished his value. I think that he definitely isn't looked at as a bust now as a top 10 pick. I think he has potential. Keegan Murray, obviously not a bust, someone who I think has a lot more potential. But I do feel like that's probably still the biggest black eye for the Kings is probably Marvin Bagley.
Yes. You're talking about a number 9
We don't talk enough about Yorgos Papagiannis.
He wasn't even on the top 100
13th pick, by the way.
That's what I'm talking about.
I was in Las Vegas for the draft. And when he got drafted, I swear, I was in one of those, whatever, in the
sports books or
whatever.
whatever.
And people were like, huh, what? Everyone, a collection of people were like, who is that? And I looked it up.
Somebody must have
never
a lot of money.
That's never good.
Somebody who had like the over on his draft selection.
He wasn't even on the top 100 on all these like mock drafts, top lists, top prospects, nothing. But I think he actually is playing pretty well overseas again, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
I think that he was playing against Sasha for a little while.
We'll see him during the summer. He's like a really good player for Greece.
Yeah, I think that he played against Sasha in the EuroLeague finals before, or the Greek League finals before he ended up coming over to Sac. That was the game that got like canceled because they were throwing stuff on the court and everything.
Yes, because of him.
Because
they were
they
getting beat by Sasha's team.
Quarter.
Yeah, they were getting smacked. They were not having fun.
Guys, have you, just for the good people that are listening and are always looking for your content on sactownsports.com and on your social media, have you started the dive into the draft, the draft hopefuls and the prospects? Are you waiting for the lottery to start to really deep dive there?
I'm starting to, I think that my realization is there's a lot of guards and centers, it feels like, which is not the most helpful thing. But at the same time, from Sacramento's point, I think that, we were talking about how can you upgrade Kevin Huerter? Like a 2 is not the worst thing when it comes to needs on this roster, even if like length and athleticism, size should really probably be towards the top of the list. You probably got to pick, really when it comes down to it, best player available, I think. And I feel like that's what we've seen them do so far. The Davion Mitchell pick was very confusing because they still had Tyrese Halliburton on the roster, just picked him the year before. And it was like, okay, where is this guy even going to get minutes? I think they played like 60 something minutes together as a trio. But they clearly picked best player available. And I will say, I can't help but look at some of the names of guys that like played a long time already. Like these are players that I feel like the Kings tend to lean towards, guys that were really productive in college. So there's some names where I look at it and I'm like, it just doesn't feel like a Kings guy, but maybe you're like forced to change up sort of what you typically go after.
Yeah, we're going to start ramping up, I think, next week when we know what the pick's going to be and maybe putting on a draft profile per day. But it is hard because I feel like with Monty and this front office, they do go with those guys that have more quote unquote experience. Maybe not at the NBA level, obviously the professional level, but at the college level, because the past couple of draft picks that they have had, Davion, Tyrese, even at the time, I think he was 20, Keegan, these are guys that played multiple years of college basketball. They were people that could come in and slot into a young core. I feel like some of these guys that are 18, 19, someone who just turned 18 is on this draft board here. Like, I think that they might go with someone that's more like, I know there's like the COVID year that was big for a lot of college players. So we see guys that are 23, 24 coming into the league now. Maybe they go somewhere with that and they pick a player we didn't really see on the radar. But I mean, I do feel like from a lot of outside voices, like I think Bobby Marks said it, a couple other analysts have said that the Kings can find value at 13. I mean, a lot of teams have found value at much further in the draft. And even though it's a weak draft, no one really knows until a couple of years down the line. I mean, they're evaluating it as a weak draft, but we really truly will not know. This draft could be incredible for all we know. They could have multiple all-stars, but I think the Kings for sure should use this pick to their advantage, whether it means they actually use it and select a player, or if on draft night they have something cooked up and they move the pick. But it's something I'm getting more open to the idea of getting excited to see what they're going to do.
Yeah, it's a lottery on top of another lottery when it comes to the picks, because it's always a mixed bag. There have been drafts that were supposed to be strong and not as strong as you think, and vice versa. Drafts that haven't been supposed to be strong, and maybe there's just one random gem in there, and the Kings can get that gem. In Monty, we trust. When we return, a Western Conference team has essentially come out. There are reports that they have come out and said that one of their young pieces is untouchable. What this means for the Kings and the rest of the trade market. Stiles Watkins, Whit, Brenden, and Frankie. Sactown Sports.
On the move? Got somewhere to be?
Take Sacramento Kings basketball with you. The Sactown Sports app will let you stay connected to your passion. Never miss a moment of Sacramento Kings basketball with the Sactown Sports app.
The Amish have a reputation for craftsmanship, determination, and quality. Hi, this is Frank LaRosa with a word about Naturewood Home Furnishings. You know, those virtues sound quite similar to the Keys family and the day-to-day values on display at Naturewood. The Amish furniture craftsmanship begins with the finest hardwood, shaping and molding the raw materials into one-of-a-kind art. In addition to the classic styles long sought and revered by discriminating furniture lovers, Naturewood Home Furnishings offers a vast selection that includes transitional, modern, farmhouse, arts and crafts, and other stunning styles, all available in the ultimate Amish standard of excellence built over centuries. Let the Naturewood team guide you through their selection of Amish furniture that will be with you forever. Naturewood Home Furnishings, off Highway 50 at Hazel. Look for the water wheel.
When you take the time to shop at Folsom Lake Honda, there's one thing you'll always find. Happy people ready to serve you. As a family-owned and operated dealership since 2009, customer service is our #1 priority. Our customers love doing business with us, and you will too.
Looking to own or lease? During the spring sales event, drive a brand new Accord or Civic. Visit us today at FolsomLakeHonda.com, your one-stop Honda shop.
Folsom Lake Honda, yeah, your one-stop Honda shop.
Kevin Lewis with National Garage Door, reminding you that in Sacramento, National Garage Door is the king of garage doors. We service, sell, and install garage doors and openers. Call us today for your basketball special. A new 16x7 Rainer garage door with installation and a belt drive opener for only $24.49 installed. Give us a call today, 916-638-4554.
638-4554 National Garage Door.
Golf to Go is brought to you by the Hagen Oaks Golf Super Shop. Here's Frank LaRosa.
Since you probably can't afford your own sports psychologist, Golf Monthly's Fergus Bissett offers 5 golf psychology tips to help you play better. First, stay in the present. If your mind is ahead of you, how can you focus on the shot at hand? Second, every shot is a new challenge. The objective of every shot is to get the ball in the hole in the least amount of strokes. Go do it. 3, the past is the past. Many of us dwell on the past. Not good. Clear your mind and move on to the next shot. 4, never surrender. Some give up on their rounds too quickly. Your fortunes on the course can change with one swing or one decent break. Lastly, stay positive on the greens. If you're having one of those days where the putts don't drop, focus on the positives. If you're putting on your intended line, that's a good thing. Keep it up and they'll begin to fall. And remember, it's a game, so go out there and have some fun. That's your Golf to Go. I'm Frank LaRosa.
Contact Tax Relief Helpers for details and restrictions. Attention anyone that owes money to the IRS. The IRS has restarted aggressive enforcement actions against taxpayers who owe back taxes that were temporarily suspended for COVID. If you owe $10,000 or more, you must hear this because now is the time to clear your IRS tax debt. A special toll-free number has been established so you can stop penalty fees, avoid liens, levies, and other hostile measures by the IRS. Call Tax Relief Helpers right now at 800-934-9217. Tax Relief Helpers will provide you with the maximum protection afforded by law.
I got behind on my taxes and owed $48,000. I didn't know what to do. I called and they got my bill lowered to just $3,500.
I owed $87,000 in taxes and it was scary. I got the amount I owed down to just $3,500. I saved $83,500.
If you owe money to the IRS, don't wait another day. Call 800-934-9217 right now before the IRS enforces liens, levies, and other aggressive measures. The call and consult are absolutely free. Call now. Call 800-934-9217. 800-934-9217. 800-934-9217.
Capital Casino has been serving the greater Sacramento area in the same convenient downtown location for over 20 years with plenty of close-by, well-lit parking monitored by security staff and offering the most variety of table games in the region in a safe and friendly environment. Best food, best service, and the best action. That's Capital Casino. For more information on tournaments and gaming, check out their website at capital-casino.com. And please remember to gamble responsibly. 1-800-GAMBLER.
Sactown Sports.
Check us out on YouTube. Search Sactown Sports and subscribe.
We are back with the Sactown Sports Kings insiders, Frankie, Cartoscelli, and Brenden Nunes. Guys, this just came out. Ramona Shelburne was on the Warriors flagship as we discuss young pieces. And somebody, was it yesterday, Chris? Somebody on the text line said that we as
overvaluing Keegan.
Yes, we overvalue Keegan Murray, and Chris had a really good response. Basically, every fan base and every front office overvalues their young pieces. Speaking of that, now Ramona Shelburne comes out and says Jonathan Kuminga is considered untouchable by the Warriors. Quote, they'll do everything they can to keep him. They don't even want to talk about him. And all I can say is I think that's in a Western Conference that's continuing to get stronger. No disrespect to Jonathan Kuminga, because Chris and I have gone back and forth about his ceiling. I think that's great news. I think that's great news if you are not a fan of the Warriors, because they're a bit strapped. And Andrew Wiggins, let's not forget, he went MIA again this season, not just on the court, but off the court as well. If they're truly, now look, this is just a report from Ramona Shelburne, but I trust her sources. If they're truly not trying to move Jonathan Kuminga, they cannot make a substantial move.
I mean, that's like their biggest chip, which is kind of where I'm at with Keegan as well. I mean, I think the main reason why a lot of people, and myself included, I'm sure you guys will feel the same way, why the Kings shouldn't move Keegan is because he is their greatest chip. And I think if they were going to actually move him, it would take a lot. I think with the Warriors, I think, like you just said, they can't really afford to move him because of he's inexpensive, under control. I think he's going to be restricted free agent next summer.
Extension eligible this offseason, I think.
Yes.
Why would they move him?
And had a career year this year.
Yeah.
They have to figure out the Klay Thompson situation. Is he going to come back? You have to pay him. It sounds like he's not going to take a hometown discount. If he does, it'll still be enough to push him into that third tier of luxury tax. So I think that when you value young guys, I think it just depends on where you are. The Kings are in a different place than the Warriors. The Warriors are kind of on the decline right now after being at the top. The Kings are what we hope is on the climb up. Keegan needs to be a big part of that. And if he's not, it's because they moved him for a very, very big piece. So I think that I take it as the Warriors are saying they're not going to move Kuminga unless it's for that big right piece. How do they afford it? I have no idea. But the Kings, it's like they can afford it. They can bring on someone if they wanted to. But why would you when Keegan's showing this much potential and he's so young and, again, under team control, restricted free agent in 2 more years? That just would, to me, be a bad decision.
Yeah, I have 2 initial thoughts. I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind is that he's extension eligible right now, or whenever the technical deadline comes up, but this offseason. And it wouldn't surprise me if this is also just, from his side from the Warriors side, trying to get messaging out there of, hey, we really like Kuminga. There's a game to be played. And I feel like this is the time that it happens. And specifically, even just negotiations with him internally, there's been questions about how do they feel about him and his future. It wouldn't surprise me. I feel like there's a world where this is, the team wanting to reassure him a little bit. But the other side is if this really is how they're feeling, it goes back to the 2 timeline thing. And it feels like, okay, are you going to try to keep that up? Because it didn't work before, but maybe you could argue, well, if you would have picked the right players, that it could have worked out. But it's like, if you're still going to go on a last run with Steph, it kind of feels like you need to dangle that piece to go get another star.
Yeah, that's a great point, Brenden, on, hey, they're just playing the game a little bit. And bringing it back to the draft, I do think there's something to be said about trying to find somebody that fits what you want versus just the best player available, or should I say not best player available if you're Kuminga, but highest ceiling available. Because that was the whole thing with the Warriors. They took a big swing on this guy because of his ceiling. And I think if you look at ceilings and what he could be, I feel like more people would say Kuminga has a higher ceiling than Keegan, but we all, just based on athleticism and things like that. The problem is you don't know what the heck he's going to be. So even if Kuminga was available to when me and Chris go back and forth, this season, all of a sudden he's a scorer, right? And he's getting to the paint, but he's a scorer that can't really shoot. And he's a defender, but he's more of a defender on wings. He can't really defend guard still. So even if you're trading for him, if a team is trading for him, and we talked about this with the Hawks and Jalen Johnson, is somebody saying, we'll give you this big piece because Kuminga is going to be the main piece to our franchise? He hasn't done enough for that. No. So I don't know what why a team would give up something big unless you just really, at what point, right now, what we know, even if you say Kuminga has a higher ceiling on paper than Keegan, you know, a team knows what you're trading for with Keegan. You see the path. I don't know what the path is with Kuminga, and I've defended Kuminga, but if I'm a random GM, what are you looking for him to do?
I think that could be person to person. Like, it feels like different people's cup of tea, right? Where like Kuminga has more of a wide range of outcomes. Maybe it's a higher ceiling, but I feel like it's definitely a lower floor. Well, it's because I called him JK.
Yeah, you're such a Warriors guy.
I guess. He tried to catch himself too.
That's what he gets called.
Crazy.
I could tell like it was getting eyes after that.
Thanks for reminding us that this side of the table is from the Bay.
Stop it.
We're not.
Dub Nation and JK.
They got to get 30 some help, guys.
That's the final level. When you start calling Steph 30, that's the final level of Warriors.
You could have just let it go, Chris. It's a Friday.
I did. I didn't say anything.
I could feel it.
I just thought it was crazy.
As soon as you said it, Chris and I made eye contact.
I corrected myself quick too. I knew I did it. Yeah, whatever.
It's actually a fact.
That's like hearing someone on like Bay Area radio calling Keegan Keegs.
Yeah, or like Leak. Yeah, Leak would be crazy.
King of Kings. Yeah.
JK's not as good as Keegan, but he has. I think he
close.
has a higher ceiling and a lower floor. And I think that could be more appealing to some teams. Like, obviously, Keegan is somebody that Sacramento loves, but say that they never had either player, I think that Monty's front office would probably prefer Keegan. But I don't think that's every front office around the league, if that makes sense.
Right, yeah, because Kuminga is the kind of guy where, I guess maybe even to Alan's point, like, you bring in Kuminga Atlanta's almost a perfect situation where you're not really playing for anything. It's just
early.
We have a lot of opportunity, and like you said, he's so raw. He's good at things, but it's like you just need to like mold him like Clay and not like Klay Thompson, like Clay the material.
More Warriors references.
Yeah, dude, we're killing it over here. I just think that Kuminga, like a Brooklyn situation or something, would make sense for him. But to your point, like, what is, if the Warriors are going to try and do this KD thing, I don't really know what Kuminga would do for Phoenix in the immediate.
Well, what does their draft situation look like as far as capital? Do they have picks, or do they spend picks to bring on the guys they brought in the past?
They should have them all. I don't believe they had to trade off any picks for anybody that I could think of, because CP, they didn't give up any picks or anything like that, or Wiggins. I don't think they're still paying.
Trying here.
I think Brennan's trying to find it, but I wouldn't like. I can't remember what the return was.
I know they
Chris
have
Paul.
14.
What was the return? It was Jordan Poole.
They sent off Jordan Poole, and I think they might have even gotten a first back.
They should have. They definitely should have for that deal. Which, by the way, I was surprised to know that Chris Paul still has another contract. You're on his contract.
Does he really? I actually didn't know that.
I believe so. I thought he was a free agent. I don't think so.
Yeah, that didn't work out too well for him. It did for the first, month of the season.
No, it really didn't.
Yeah.
But no, as far as draft capital goes, I mean, that's what the Kings are kind of looking at too. Like, how much do these teams have to actually use? I mean, the Kings, it sounds like Monty seemed confident that they have picks to use if they want to, which I think they have this year on draft night, and then 27 and 28, I think, maybe even 29. So I wonder if the Warriors are in the same boat where they have picks, but it's not really in the near future. It's down the line.
They don't have this year's first, which actually I hadn't realized. That's owed to Portland.
Oh, interesting.
For what? It's protected top four, technically. I believe that it was GP2 when they traded back for him halfway through that season.
That's
because that's a
heavy price.
Because he had like 3-4 years on his deal, right? So it was probably to get him for a little while.
Oh, that's a hefty price to admit defeat. Yeah.
But they don't have anybody else's first or any of their others outgoing. Handful of seconds both ways, but yeah, some flexibility. It's not the worst.
Yeah, I love I think the comparison of Kuminga to Keegan is really interesting. And if they're shutting it down for Kuminga, I think you have to shut it down for Keegan, but you do need to see, or you do really hope to see, that huge third-year leap that we talk about with so many other players. When we return, one of Brendan's top picks for trade target balls out last night. Does it change your mind on the price tag before the trade market was closed this past season? Stiles and Watkins, Sactown Sports.
I didn't ask to be thrown in the streets with nowhere to go. I didn't think I'd survive. But I did ask for help, and Covenant House was there for me.
1 in 10 young adults will experience a form of homelessness this year. For these kids who didn't ask to be put in this unthinkable situation, Covenant House is there.
Covenant House helped me break the cycle of homelessness in my family. They gave me the love that I needed.
Over 2,000 young people will sleep safely in a Covenant House bed tonight. When youth who are experiencing homelessness have a hot meal, a safe place to sleep, medical care, and love, they can overcome heartbreaking challenges and have a brighter future.
They just really genuinely just wanted to help me succeed, and I'm succeeding. I'm a speaker, I'm an author. Covenant House really helped me and really helped mold me into the woman I am today.
If you or someone you love is asking for help, go to safeplacetosleep.org today.
So here's a fact. 85% of the population will suffer from foot pain in their lifetime. That's almost everyone. So you'd think there'd be plenty of healthy long-term remedies, but there just aren't, right? Hi, I'm Dan from the Good Feet store. You know, people come in all the time sharing the same frustrating story. Bought this, tried that, been there, done whatever, all different kinds of things, but all with a similar result. Nothing. A discouraging and endless cycle of disappointment. If this rings a bell, don't despair. There is hope. If you think you've tried everything, you probably haven't tried Good Feet arch supports from the Good Feet store. They're designed to relieve, even eliminate the pain commonly caused by certain foot conditions like plantar fasciitis, bunions, flat feet, and others. Plus, provide better balance and increased comfort.
Do you have sore feet, an aching back, or plantar fasciitis? Then get to the Good Feet store nearest you for your free arch support fitting. Good Feet arch supports are only available at the Good Feet store.
My father was a career United States Air Force pilot, and Memorial Day is a reminder of all he and so many others did for our country. Hi, this is Frank LaRosa with a word about Naturewood Home Furnishings. Right now at the annual Memorial Day sale, everything in the store is on sale. Everything. You'll save 10 to 25% on all living rooms, to sofas, to sectionals, to dining rooms, to bedrooms, to home offices, and so much more. Everything is on sale right now at Naturewood Home Furnishings Memorial Day sale. Whether you're looking to lighten the mood in your living room, brighten up your bedroom, or tighten up your home office, it's all available for you at savings from 10 to 25% at Naturewood Home Furnishings, where it's all about choices and always about quality. Shop the area's best selection of quality furniture at Naturewood Home Furnishing, off Highway 50 in Hazel. Look for the water wheel.
Do you hear that? That's your air conditioner working overtime this summer. But it's not just the temperature that's rising, so is your electric bill. Stop paying sky-high rates for your electricity with a solar electric system from Aztec Solar. Finally, you can calculate your monthly savings when you go solar without sitting through a 2-hour in-home sales pitch. Visit yourpowersavings.com and Aztec Solar will text you how much you'll save each month by going solar. Since 1980, Aztec Solar has helped thousands of homeowners with solar pool heating, solar electricity, and backup energy storage. Going solar is like getting an extra paycheck every month. How much will your paycheck be? Find out at yourpowersavings.com. Yourpowersavings.com. Looking for a deal today? Now you can own a solar electric system for just $99.95 cash offer after incentives. Act now. This offer expires soon. Aztec Solar. Solar and only solar since 1980.
What's up? We're talking to Chad Hoblet of Hoblet Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Woodland. Chad, what's happening for Chrysler's It's the Season sales event?
We're sad to say goodbye to the last of the new gas-powered 2023 Dodge Challenger and Chargers, but we're sending them out in style. Right now, you can save up to $12,500 off MSRP on the very last of the new 2023 Dodge Chargers and Challengers in stock. GT or SXT, you pick, starting at just $24,350.
It's hard to believe this is really the end.
Yep. Once they're gone forever. Don't wait and miss your chance because there's only a few left. And with savings like this, they won't last long.
Hurry in before they're gone or search, select, and save through their whole inventory at HobletDodge.com. Unbeatable prices, unbeatable selection. Nobody beats Hoblet, period.
$12,500 total net savings after $8,500 factory rebates and $4,000 dealer discount. 10th of this net savings, $24,350 net price on new 2023 Dodge Challenger SXT after $8,530 factory rebates and $54.70 dealer discounts. Sample VIN 648401. See dealer for details.
Country in the Park is back May 17th and 18th at Cal Expo with Brantley Gilbert, Dustin Lynch, Jay Cohen, Walker Hayes, and more. Tickets start at just $46. Country in the Park, May 17th and 18th at Cal Expo. For more information, visit CITPFest.com.
Brought to you by Kids Care Dental and Orthodontics, the Hot Tub Store, and Cattleman's.
KHTKAM HD1 Sacramento, KYMX HD2 Sacramento. From the Power Business Technology Toshiba Studios.
This is Sactown Sports.
Your flagship station for the Beam Team, Sactown Sports.
With the Kings insiders for Sactown Sports, Frankie, Cartoscelli, and Brenden Nunes. Simone with the M&M version of...
You get these every time. It takes me a sec.
Yeah, don't worry. If we were doing Friday Fun and Games, I'd freeze.
Yeah, that's fair.
I've learned that I understand why the baby race happened the way it did. Because I freeze.
Unpacking trauma.
I mean, Friday Fun and Games, I put up some stinkers.
It's tough sometimes.
Some stinkers, you know.
There's a tough one that you haven't done yet either. It's called Meet the Post or Hit the Post. I'm telling you, you don't want it.
Well, we won't do it because you won't let us do it.
It is a nightmare.
I don't want to do it.
Yeah, it's not fun.
But what Brenden did want the Kings to do is trade for one PJ Washington, but at what cost? And as we continue to go back and forth with everybody during the Kings' early exit in the play-in, not making the playoffs, and then you see PJ Washington 20-plus points last night. Brenden, does it make you rethink the idea? And Chris and I, we've defended Monty McNair and the Kings for some of the moves, a la Royce O'Neal and things like that. But when you look at what the Mavs have done, and it's so funny, they're down 1-0. We sit there and we say, look, the Mavs sold their future for this. But if the Mavs, I mean, what if they make the conference finals again? What if they mess around and get to the finals? I think we look at this differently. Obviously, it's too early to tell. We'll see what happens as the series moves to Dallas. But you see what they're doing in Dallas. Does it make you rethink the price tag on PJ Washington and Gafford and whether or not you would have been willing to make the moves? Because it is a different team, the Kings. Do we think PJ Washington would have helped the Kings as much as he's helping the Mavericks?
Yeah, I think I definitely catch myself watching those games and being like, this is a great example of how much improved depth matters, where these guys have really changed their season.
Right.
But like you said, I think the Kings are just in a different spot when it comes down to it. It was very obvious what Dallas needed. They have their stars, multiple. They needed those improved depth pieces. Now, sure, they could have decided, we want to, rather spend multiple on one guy and get a third or whatever. So they had some optionality on the way you want to go. But for the Kings, it's like, do you feel like you need to go get another big star? Because Dallas did sacrifice some of their future flexibility in order to do this, and that could work out. But I think that they are more so in a spot where that's understandable. Where the Kings, if you didn't have the 2025 available to you, or up to 2027, it's like, are you willing to trade a 2029 pick, for this guy? And what are those protections going to look like? Isn't one of the Dallas picks, I think, is very unprotected in the future, and it's after Luka is his deal will have expired, so there is a lot of risk here, and I still think it could end up looking pretty bad in hindsight. But I think there's just a big difference in what these teams need at their current stage. And from Sacramento's aspect, while I do think PJ would have helped and I could have got behind that move for sure, I don't mind, keeping your cupboard full to wait and see what comes out down the line. But they're definitely a good example of why depth matters.
And the urgency was higher for Dallas too, I think, is because Kyrie Irving, I think, is 30, 31. Luka, like you said, has a new deal in line. He's in line for a new deal at some point in the near future. They need to figure out if he's going to be there long-term. He needs to figure that out for himself as well. The Kings are in a spot where Sabonis under contract 4 more years. Fox has 2 more years. And I mean, we've long heard that he wants to be a King for life, and we'll see if that comes to fruition. But that's a conversation for another day, obviously. But I think that, like you said, different stages of where they're at in their development and where they are as far as contention in the West. Dallas has been here before. They've been, I think, to the conference finals, I think, once or twice in the past 4 or 5 years. They played the Clippers.
Yeah,
in the
at least the one. Yeah,
they played the Suns, I think, in the conference finals that one year. I might have to mix.
They beat the Suns to get to conference finals.
They beat the Suns. That was where Booker was staring at for the whole Booker and Luka thing. But I think that I have looked back at the Gafford deal, the Washington deal, those players that were linked to the Kings that the Kings really could have used, that could have helped them. And like you said, I think that if you're going to leverage your future and have those assets just kind of taken away, and we'd be looking at a different picture here going in the offseason, saying, okay, well, the Kings are little hamstrung. They have Gafford under contract. They got Washington. Like in this universe, let's say they got Gafford and Washington. I don't really know what kind of moves the Kings could actually make to upgrade their roster outside of using that 13th pick. They wouldn't have any cap space. Malik, if he leaves, even now they don't have any cap space. So I think that those moves made a lot of people frustrated at the time, but I think now it's working for Dallas, sure, but we don't know if it'll work for the Kings the same exact way.
Yeah, I'm looking here just to remind everyone, this is specifically for PJ Washington, and we can transform this into what it would be for the Kings. The Mavericks have swung a deal for PJ Washington, sending the Charlotte Hornets a package centered around Grant Williams, Seth Curry, and a top 2 protected first-round pick in 2027. At the time, Washington had started 17 games. He was coming off the bench a lot for the Hornets. Washington, who had started 17 games, is averaging 13.6 points and 5.3 rebounds per game in 44 contests this season. The 6'7" forward has shot 35.9% from 3 in his career, but is shooting a career low 32.4% this season. I specifically remember, Brenden, you sitting in this seat and you calling PJ Washington basically a high ceiling project. That is the price tag for a high ceiling project that can do some things. And yeah, he looked good last game, but that's the price tag.
And I mean, specifically in that deal, honestly, I think it'd be dumb if there's no way the Kings could have beat that deal, I think, without it being pretty dumb, or just sacrificing
Reckless.
too much. What if we want to say Grant Williams is like Sasha Vezenkov and Seth Curry's Chris Duarte, and then keep the same pick if you want.
To say more.
Those guys are better?
Yeah, I would think Duarte. I would think Seth Curry has more value than Duarte.
I could see that. Yeah, if you want to mess around with what guys those may be, right? But somewhere in that sort of tier, right? Yeah, because it's really the pick more than anything. Charlotte does not care about Grant Williams. Well, I don't want to speak for Charlotte. Charlotte might care about Grant Williams. They're not in a spot where the player they get back is what matters, is what I really mean here. And the Kings couldn't have done 2027, I think, if I have this right off the top of my head. But say we wanted to do 2028 for this exercise. Would you trade a top 2028, top 2 protected pick for PJ Washington? I think that's kind of crazy.
Insane. Especially if that pick ends up being a top 10 pick for whatever reason. Who knows? De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis can be on the team, but both get injured that year, and the Kings have a top 10 pick. You really just gave up a top 10 pick for PJ Washington.
We were looking right now. The Warriors don't have their pick this year because they traded a first to dump Andre Iguodala years ago.
2019.
And now it's a lottery pick.
And now it's the number 14 pick in the draft just to get off of Andre Iguodala in 2019.
Was that the Miami trade?
No, it sent him to Memphis.
The Memphis trade.
I forget who they
set
needed
off everything else.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm on your block.
And then he went to Miami from Memphis. That's right.
It's just dangerous. I mean, it's just a dangerous game. And 2, I think what pretty much Frankie was saying, it's like you would sit here today. If the Kings did make those moves, you sit here today and there's no such thing as a big fish list because we can't. Those were the moves. The next move would be who's an impact role player who can set this thing over the top, and maybe we're talking about trying to find the next Malik Monk, and that's the hope, because I just don't know where that was the whole thing, is it just removes all your flexibility. And as we are constantly reminded by Monty McNair, the number one thing he values as a GM is flexibility at all times. And if you were to go all in for 2 role players, a high level project, that's just not good value management. And so, you could have sold everything to be good this year, but at what cost to your future?
Now let's do Gafford. Okay. And the Mavericks, kind of same idea. In return for Gafford, Washington received Rashawn Holmes and a 2024 first round pick from the Mavericks. So that's a little less.
It's the 13th pick this year, and
less players, but just as
Rashawn Holmes is JaVale.
Alex,
whatever.
Yeah.
You're again trading your first round pick this year for your backup center.
I mean,
can't do it.
I just don't think I think they have other things they need to do first. I just think there's an order of operations here. And I think that you still need another star.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think you need to hold on to those. Yeah. someone that's at least flirting with the level of De'Aaron and Domas. You know, I kind of think this needs to be a three-headed snake.
Sure.
Really. If you don't have one guy that's like the clear, best player on a championship team, get three that are all close.
And that's outside of Keegan. Like you're saying, like to go along with that as well, like the Mikal Bridges, those names we thrown out before, like the big fish, the trade.
Yeah. Or I guess another like Keegan caliber. That's not far off, I guess, potentially what he turns out to be. But like, I think you need to keep those available to you. In the meantime, look for little spots to be advantageous, whether like the Chris Duarte move is really good in theory.
Yes, in theory.
They spent nothing to go get this guy and it just didn't work out. But I think you try little things like that to improve your depth, or what are you going to do with the MLE this year or the biannual? And I think you just try to make little improvements that way. You wait with these firsts, in my mind, unless one of those advantageous things pops up where you're like, typically this would cost 3 and it's only 1.
On top of the fact that, and we have people on the text line saying scared money don't make no money because of the lack of moves. It's a wide open West right now. But I would counter that to the 916 to say there is only going to be one winner. And a lot of these teams are already showing cracks in the armor. And this summer, a lot of teams are going to blow up, right? So do you want to be the Mavs who maybe the Mavs win the whole thing, but let's say they don't, now they're stuck, and you're going to see their fan base is going to see all of these stars or close to start, the Brandon Ingrams of the world, all these guys being available, and you can't do anything because you got PJ Washington and Gafford and you sold your soul for a second round stint. Or you could be the Kings, and it was tough not getting into the playoffs and losing to the Pelicans for the 18th time. But now you have some opportunities moving forward. All right, when we return, we ask the guys which free agents intrigued them. And if one person texts in and says Sacramento can't get free agents, Frankie Cartoscelli is going to lose it. Stiles and Watkins, Sactown Sports.
The only place you'll find Keegan Murray is Sactown Sports.
Out to Keegan Murray, straight away for 3, and Keegan knocks down the triple.
Hey Sacramento, it's Keegan Murray, and you're listening to the home of Sacramento Kings, Sactown Sports.
Your local sports leader.
Bonneville International Radio Station contests are open to participants at least 18 years of age and older that are residents of California and who reside in one of the 6 counties that make up the Sacramento metro area, unless otherwise specified. Employees or agents of the station, Bonneville International Corporation, other area radio stations, or any entity associated with the contest are not eligible to win, unless the station otherwise specifies in its own discretion. Persons who have won in the last 30 days from a station contest or event may not be eligible. For a copy of the general contest rules, visit KHTK.com.
Hi, it's Brian from Bennett's Restaurants. Mother's Day is a special day we all enjoy, and we'd love to see you and your mom over the Mother's Day holiday weekend. Come and enjoy prime seafoods and steak. This year, we are featuring a Caribbean spiny lobster tail. They are large and succulent. We serve them with drawn butter, fresh asparagus with hollandaise at our Bennett's Restaurants in Sacramento, Roseville, and Rockland. We offer big variety on the menu as well, so you're sure to find the food you crave. Visit Bennett'sRestaurants.com for reservations. That's Bennett'sRestaurants.com. Eat well and stay well.
Your home for Kings basketball for over 25 seasons.
Sactown Sports.
Chris's big fish list, guys. You should have saw some of the notes on not that the Kings need guards, but people were not happy with the guard list at all.
I saw that, and to that I say, hey, are you watching the video? Like, are you listening to what that you guys are saying, or are they just seeing the names and just reacting? Because you guys are clearly saying these are just the players who are available, not the Sacramento Kings need to go sign Gary Trent Jr. It's like, no, that's just who's available. Mm-hmm. And who they could sign if Malik does, unfortunately, and hopefully not leave.
Yeah.
Look, Frankie, but the Kings don't get free agents. That's what you don't understand is they don't. Why are we wasting time doing this when they don't sign anybody? Nobody has ever came to Sacramento and had a good time ever.
Never.
Period.
There are
End
no
of sentence.
flights. Flights only go out of Sacramento. They
that's
do not
true.
come
Never.
That's just a fact.
Let's go, Sacramento.
Exactly.
Who is that?
It's
I
think it's Spears, isn't it? think it's Spears.
Oh, there you go.
I was like, who could that possibly
There you
be?
go. Some of the names, guys. So a name that popped up, we did the bigs yesterday, and now there's a report that the Pelicans will not be re-signing Jonas Valanciunas. His name along with others.
What do you guys think his value is?
Probably like full MLE.
Yeah.
12.9.
Yeah, I don't think he'll get more than that.
Getting paid 15 mil this year, which
I don't think
feels
someone will get
like
more.
the limit.
I'd be surprised if it was more than 15. I think he'll for sure probably take a slight decrease. I'd say 12 to 14 million.
Do you think like in today's NBA, he's still starting? Like he was obviously a more than quality starting center, but like with how the NBA is played today, it feels like these really big, I don't want to call him plotting, but he kind of is, especially for how centers look today, a plotting big man. Like our team's going to be excited and really, like Nikola Vucevic a couple of years ago got,
All-star.
a huge trade package for him. I just don't think the value of a center like that is anywhere near that anymore.
Personally, I feel like the value won't be that high. I think that are there teams you could start on? Sure, but they're probably not teams that should be in playoff contention. That's not like a slight against Valanciunas. I think he's someone who could still slot in and fill in a pinch, but I think he's more of a guy that would be better in a reserve role at this point. I think he's 32, 33 now.
Yeah.
I think that I'd be very surprised to see a team shell out 15 to 20 million for a big like that.
Do you think a situation like Sacramento would entice him? Obvious, besides the Sabonis connection of Lithuania and all that, like, do you think the role that the Kings could offer him would be one that's enticing enough to him?
Like we're talking backup center.
Yeah, backup center.
Not
but,
these guys playing together.
He can maybe get, I think he can maybe get 20 to 25 minutes. It allows, Domas gets no rest right now.
Yeah.
And I think partially it's obviously because you want him to be on the floor as much as possible, but I do think a big part of it is we can't really run Alex Len or JaVale for 25 minutes.
I mean, I do think he'd be a great backup big. I think for me, it's more opportunity cost.
Yes.
Like I think it would probably take close to your full MLE, if not the whole thing. And I would just rather go, spend cheap on another backup big,
needs.
Bring back Alex, like
Maybe
when I look at centers, I'm like, all right, let's go cheap here. Unless it was like a Naz Reid, who I know they like last year, where it's like, okay, this guy can play the 4 next to Domas and play the backup 5.
That's what
or Bobby Portis, your guy.
He is my guy, and there's starting to be some smoke there.
That's smoke. Are you creating it?
No, I heard there's
it's coming
smoke.
out his ears. Yeah,
there is some smoke. Beams or Beamley is saying that. Nah, bro, start him and Domas goes to the 4. Can you do that with Valanciunas?
I don't think you can do that with Sabonis.
He can't shoot the 3 yet. He hasn't proven he can knock down that mid-range consistently, and until he can knock down that mid-range,
You're talking about Sabonis.
Yeah, if he can't do that, you can't play the 4. You can't have 2 paint dominant bigs. That's why we see. That's one of the main reasons why I think that New Orleans, which I read, I think Michael Scotto from a hoop site put out today, that's they're letting him go. Like it's probably
they want spacing.
They want spacing, and the Kings would have very little spacing because Sabonis operates in and around the paint a lot. I think that last year, again, this is going a year back, but Brook Lopez to me would have been just like a really ideal fit for a big next to Sabonis because protects the rim, knocks down threes, and specifically the corner threes, like automatic from corner threes, which we saw at that game in Milwaukee. But I'm interested to see kind of how you guys, if you feel the same way. I think that as far as draft compensation and assets go, I think that I'm more looking at the salary cap and the money. And if the Kings are really going to be aggressive, they haven't gone over that luxury tax in 20 years. I feel like this might be the time to do that. Like put your money where your mouth is. You fill out that arena every night. The revenue I feel like is going to keep coming in. Put your money where your mouth is, and it might cost a little more.
Just raise price on the tickets.
I think you have to go over the luxury tax at some point if you really want to push this group to its fullest potential. I feel like making the money work and keep staying under that line is very hard. And we see a lot of teams that are in contention go past that line, that first threshold. And I think the Kings right now, they're not a playoff team right now. They were very close. So it's a risk. But at least if it happens, you still have your draft picks. You have that future draft capital. Because if you're not going to go and trade those picks for a Ingram or Levine, which I'm personally not on board with, but the guys that are going to become available, Mikal Bridges, which will take every probably draft pick the Kings have for the next 4 or 5 years, it's expensive money, which will be uncomfortable at the time. But I mean, something that my uncle always says with the teams that we watch, it's like, it's not my money. So, I think that's kind of just how I feel about it. I'm not sure if you guys feel the same way, but I think the best way to upgrade this roster is going to be by spending money, whether it's in free agency or shedding salary through trades and adding more in free agency. But I feel better about that than shedding draft picks.
Are you, Frankie, talking about the one, the only, the Sacramento tax?
What is the Sacramento tax? Like the income tax? For
Apparently, there's a Sacramento tax.
God.
Kings got to pay more, right?
Yes, essentially.
That's probably a thing, but I mean, I think it's always true. I mean,
no, I mean, I think like the Pascal thing, if it did play out kind of how it gets talked about, that he didn't want to go here, that's probably like the extent of what like a Sacramento tax looks like. You know what I mean? Like, sure, if a guy doesn't want to come here and you got to like sell him on it a little bit, like I guess that's probably part of the process, but I would like to think that it doesn't exist too much.
That's probably part of it.
You still have to outbid everybody else.
With
yes.
With Pascal, I feel like that also was a part of play style. Like Tyrese is someone who is a distributor. He gets his points, but more so like from knocking down threes, or he doesn't create off the dribble, which he was getting dragged for after game one, dragged for not creating his own offense. That's not really what he usually does. Maybe Pascal was more so deterred by the fact that De'Aaron is a ball dominant guard that scores, he does it on his own. So maybe it was part of a Sacramento tax. Maybe it was a part of just not wanting to play with this kind of situation, but I think that the Kings can bring in talent. It's not just, this isn't the 2015, 2016 Sacramento Kings here. They have Mike Brown. They have a bunch of guys on this team that I think would speak highly of the culture and the foundation that's been laid before. Even if guys that depart that were a part of that original Beam team, if Kevin Huerter, Harrison Barnes, whoever depart, Malik Monk, hopefully not again, I think there are enough guys in the locker room or within the organization, coaching staff, front office that can speak well and make a good pitch for a free agent. Maybe not a superstar like Paul George or Zach LaVine, but there should be guys out there that might be in that MLE range or a little above it that they can bring in to be a part of this team and a part of this roster.
Brenden, is there any way I can get you on record with your Simone Fontecchio take?
Sure. Yes. I think Fontecchio is really, really good. I would imagine that since Detroit traded for him, that they probably want to hold on to him, and it's restricted free agency. So I think from the Kings standpoint, you'd have to really love the guy because it would lock your money up. Teams always wait the extended amount that they can until they either are going to match you in free agency or decide to let you move on, and other guys could go in the meantime, obviously. But I think this guy can play really, really good defense. I think he's a good, smart three-point shooter. I think he moves the ball pretty well too, actually. Like, I think he's a smart player.
Say it.
I think he might, if the Kings got him, I think he could start over Harrison Barnes. Wow. And I don't know that, why weren't we talking about Trey Lyles earlier this year?
Yeah,
and I disagreed with that for what it's worth. But
I think most people, I think it's just,
I don't think Simone Fontecchio is on a lot of people's radar.
Yeah, no, probably not. Probably not.
I mean, if you hit on this.
Yeah, it's one of those. I think they should be gem hunting. And that's essentially what I'm doing here.
Yes.
Gogo Patase is my guy.
There you go.
Deep into Gogo Patase.
Okay.
A lot to like there. A lot to like there.
Okay.
Stretch 5 really can. I think if you give him a big role, it could work out.
Is Fontecchio just like a newer version of Gallinari?
I could kind of see where you're coming from. I think there's definitely more defense there, though. And he's got size and length.
Italian.
Hey, 6'8".
There you go. A lot to like with some of the gems that the guys have found. And we already know there's a lot to like with Malik Monk. How do they feel about Malik and the Magic attempting to take Malik from the Kings? Also, we have word on who will be representing the